This is a continuation of our last video. So on example number 3, we are going to solve for tangent. So we'll first add 1 on both sides. That will leave us with 3 tangent squared x equal 1. Now we're going to divide both sides by 3. And that leaves us with tangent squared x equal 1 over 3. And to get rid of the squared, we're going to square root both sides. And when we do, let's not forget our plus or minus, and this gives us square root of 1 over 3. And this is something that I've pointed out in our classroom, and I think we all agree that this is the same thing as square root of 1 over square root of 3. Now, this kind of leaves us with a thought on how we're going to find where in our unit circle is y over x going to equal root 1 over root 3. And this is when I'm going to once again refer you to our cheat sheet. Because our answer, or because our quadrant point has root 3 involved in it, I can already rule out the fact that it is not going to be our medium triangles. It's not going to be our over 4s. However, we do have other 2 options. It's going to be over 6 and over 3. Now you know those corner points, and go ahead and write them out so we can kind of work with those. Okay. Now, this is going to be y over x. And I understand that this is not a rationalized version of it, which is kind of okay with me. Here's the reason why. This means on my numerator, I must have something that's related to root 1. Then on my denominator, I must have had some point that must have had root 3. And tangent is actually y over x. So that means on my numerator, I had root 1. And on my denominator, I had root 3. So this one has to be where it's going to be y over x. We can try to see and see if it makes sense to us. So let's try it just to make sure. So if I were to work on y over x, and if you use George's method and multiply both top and bottom by 2, this gives us root 1 over root 3. And it checks out, so this time it's going to be pi over 6. Now, let's be careful with this. Since it's plus or minus, we got to consider all the options. So, tangent is positive, or a fraction is a positive when they have either both positives on the numerator and the denominator, or both negatives on the numerator and the denominator. So this will give us positive tangents. Positive tangents. And the other one will give us the negative tangents. So we need all 4 of them, and this will become pi over 6, 5 over 6 pi, 7 over 6 pi, and 11 over 6 pi. Alright, now let's move on to example number 4. On example number 4, if you take a look at it, this is a quadratic function because we have something squared, that itself, and a number at the end. Now, based on the way I've talked to you guys say you guys use a house method in middle school to learn how to factor, so I'm going to go ahead and use that as well. So, on the top of the house, we're gonna write down what times what. Like I said, the first times the last. So first number times the last number, so that gives us -2. And that makes our roof, or something like that. So when we times it, first times the last gave us negative 2. And inside the roof that we're building right now, we're going to put the middle number. So this is our middle number, and I know there was not a number there, but there's always an invisible 1. And I'm going to put plus sign there. Alright, now inside the house, on the top layer of the house, we always put the first term twice. So we'll put 2 sine x and 2 sine x. And the way that you guys explained it was that you put them there twice because of the squared. Okay? Now here's what you're doing. You're essentially finding two numbers right here. You're finding two numbers that's going to multiply to give you the first times the last and add to give you the middle number. The way I think about this is I think, okay, what times what gives us 2? I'll write down 2 times 1. And to needs to multiply to give you negative 2, one of them has to be negative. When you add, it needs to be negative 1, so that one needs to be negative. Now we're going to reduce this so that becomes 1 and negative 1. And each one of these things will make a parentheses, and this becomes sine x, 1 sine of x minus 1 times 2 sine of x plus 1. And this is going to allow me to set each of these parentheses equal 0 to solve for our roots or our x's. So this becomes sine of x minus 1 equals 0. That's my one of them. My second one is 2 sine of x plus 1 equal 0. Now this one becomes sine x equal 1. This one becomes sine x equal negative 1 over 2 because you have to subtract 1 and divide by 2. Now all we have to do from here is to figure out where in our unit circle is my y going to equal 1. And that's going to be at the top corner, which is at pi over 2. And you got to think about where in my unit circle is it going to give us sine equals negative 1 over 2. This is when my y is on the bottom two sides, and it's a short triangle, so it's going to be over 6's. So we'll have 7 over 6 pi and 11 over 6.